She came to the city with nothing but a dream, to work hard, earn honestly, and send a little money back home. But in the mansion where she scrubbed marble floors and served silent meals, she was never seen as human, just the help. No one noticed her quiet eyes, always watching, until one night she saw something she was never meant to see, a secret so dark it could destroy everything. In that moment she had a choice. Stay silent and survive, or speak up and risk everything. What would you do if the truth could cost you your life? Before the city lights and marble halls, Amara's world was made of dust and dreams. She grew up in a small village where children ran barefoot and mothers prayed for rain. Life was hard, but people were kind. When her father fell ill, Amara took the only chance she had, a housekeeping job in the city for a wealthy family. They promised good pay, food, and shelter. To her, it sounded like hope. But the mansion was a different world, cold, quiet, and carved from money. Every corner whispered power, and every glance reminded her that she didn't belong. The staff spoke in hushed tones, careful not to cross lines that were invisible yet everywhere. Her boss, Mrs. Evelyn Hart, was known for her grace and kindness, a billionaire with a smile that could soften any boardroom. But her husband, Richard, was the opposite, charming in public, unpredictable in private, the kind of man whose presence filled a room with unease. Amara worked silently, unnoticed, her hands polishing silver that would never be hers. Yet behind her quiet eyes she saw everything, the tension at dinner, the forced smiles, the shadows in Evelyn's gaze. She told herself it wasn't her place to see, to know, to feel. She was just there to clean, to serve, to survive. But deep down she sensed something dark moving beneath the mansion's polished surface, something that didn't want to be found. And one night, when the house fell silent and the storm rolled in, that darkness finally revealed itself. Amara had learned to move like a shadow through the mansion. Every footstep measured, every gesture invisible. She scrubbed floors that reflected chandeliers she could never touch, polished silverware that felt colder than the stares of the other staff. She had been warned, not in words, but in the way Richard's eyes lingered too long, in the subtle whispers from other maids. She was different, and in this world, being different meant being watched, judged, and dismissed. It started with small humiliations. Orders barked at her louder than anyone else, tasks assigned only because she needed to learn her place. When she asked questions about schedules or supplies, she was met with sighs or sharp laughter. Other staff, hesitant to cross invisible lines, avoided her eyes. She felt the sting of exclusion. But the mansion demanded silence. Survival meant swallowing the hurt, pretending it didn't matter. Yet some nights, shadows told secrets that words could not. One evening, while clearing the library, she noticed Richard pacing, a bottle of scotch trembling in his hand. Evelyn had left for an important charity event, leaving him behind with the household staff. Amara stayed in the corner, silent, invisible. But she saw everything, the papers strewn across the desk, the phone calls that ended in hushed threats, the way he glared at his wife's name scribbled on documents like it was a target. The mansion was quiet, but the tension was deafening. It was as if the walls themselves were holding their breath, waiting for something to break. And then it happened. A loud crash upstairs. A vase shattered, glass slicing through the stillness. Richard stormed down, anger flashing across his features, accusing staff of incompetence. Amara froze, heart hammering. She knew she had done nothing, yet his eyes flicked to hers, a warning, the subtle threat: see nothing, say nothing, or pay. Days passed, each one heavier than the last. Amara began noticing patterns, a hidden ledger, a locked drawer, a conversation clipped too quickly. Something was wrong, deeply wrong, and the more she saw, the more the invisible lines of race and class became painfully clear. Mistreatment wasn't just personal, it was systematic. The other staff, many of whom shared her skin, endured subtle cruelty every day, forced to bend, bow, and erase themselves. Then came the night that changed everything. Alone in the kitchen, she spotted a document left carelessly on the counter. It wasn't meant for her eyes, but fate had placed it there. Her hands shook as she unfolded it. What she read wasn't just betrayal. It was criminal, dangerous, and deadly. And for the first time, the weight of her silence felt heavier than fear. Amara realized she had a choice. Continue being invisible, letting injustice rule the mansion, or act. But acting meant risking everything: her job, her safety, perhaps her life. Yet deep down, she knew that some truths could not stay hidden. And in that moment, the mansion's polished walls no longer felt safe. Somewhere in the shadows, eyes were watching, waiting to see if she would stay silent or rise. The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the distant hum of the city beyond the mansion's walls. Amara's hands trembled as she held the document, its contents burning in her mind. Every line revealed betrayal, corruption, and danger, a truth no one was meant to see, and now she was the only one who could stop it. Footsteps echoed behind her, slow, deliberate. Richard. His shadow fell across the doorway, dark and menacing. He didn't speak, but his eyes said it all. He knew she had seen. Panic surged, but so did something unfamiliar, a fierce resolve. This was no longer about fear. It was about justice, about refusing to be invisible in a world that demanded she stay small because of her skin, her class, her status. She backed toward the stairs, every instinct screaming to run. But her mind raced faster. She couldn't just flee. This secret would destroy her boss, the people she had come to care for, and countless others who would never even hear about the truth. Richard stepped closer, the air between them thick with menace. His hand shot out, trying to snatch the papers, but Amara moved first. Heart pounding, she clutched the document like a lifeline, daring him to take it. Words tumbled from her mind in silent pleas. This was wrong, this was dangerous, this had to be stopped. In that instant, the mansion seemed to hold its breath. Time slowed. Every injustice, every subtle cruelty she had endured, the whispered insults, the dismissals, the stares that cut deeper than knives, fueled her courage. She realized that silence was the true danger, and her voice, even unspoken, had power. Richard lunged, desperation in his eyes. Amara twisted, dodging, letting the document flutter to the desk, and in a single heart-stopping moment, she slammed the safe open, revealing the ledger, the proof, the undeniable truth. He froze. Shock replaced rage, and in that frozen heartbeat, Amara knew that nothing would ever be the same. The mansion's walls no longer felt like a cage. They were a stage for truth, and she was no longer invisible. But as she glanced toward the staircase, another shadow moved, and she realized that seeing the secret was only the beginning. The truth was out. The mansion, once a place of silent fear and invisible boundaries, began to shift. Richard's lies unraveled, his threats powerless against the proof Amara had revealed. Evelyn, shocked and grateful, finally saw the world through Amara's eyes, the subtle cruelties, the dismissals, the unspoken barriers that had shadowed every day of her life. What had once been ignored was now undeniable. Amara's courage changed more than one life. She had risked everything to stand against injustice, and in doing so, she gave voice to the invisible, strength to the overlooked, and hope to those who had been forced to bow quietly for too long. The mansion remained, but its walls no longer held fear. They held accountability. Yet the story extended far beyond those polished floors. For every Amara who stands up, there are countless others still silenced by systemic bias, subtle discrimination, and societal expectations. The world often demands invisibility from those it marginalizes, but truth has a way of breaking through no matter how tightly it is hidden. Amara walked away that night with more than relief. She carried a quiet pride and a reminder that justice is not just about wealth, power, or fear. It is about courage, integrity, and refusing to let silence rule. Her story is one thread in a larger tapestry of struggle, perseverance, and the fight against racial and social injustice.